Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we've got this really fascinating stack of material you sent over, all about how our brains actually, make decisions, from those snap judgments to, well, much more structured thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today is kind of to give you the inside track. We're going to look at honestly, the genius speed of your intuition, your gut feeling,
Hmm.
but also crucially dig into the predictable sort of systematic ways it can lead us astray.
Okay, so let's maybe start with the basics. This
Sure.
framework that comes up a lot, System 1 and System 2 thinking.
Right. Yeah, that's fundamental. So system one, think of that as your gut instinct. It's
Mhm.
incredibly fast. It's automatic, requires basically zero effort.
Like knowing 2 plus 2 is 4, or, I don't know, driving down an empty road while thinking about dinner.
Exactly. Or just getting a vibe, like
Yeah.
sensing anger in someone's face almost instantly. It just churns out these impressions, feelings, impulses, you know, effortlessly.
Got it. And System 2, that's the other side of the coin.
That's the conscious you, the one that thinks it's in charge. It's slow, it's deliberate, it takes real mental energy.
So like actually calculating 17 times 24.
Precisely. Or trying to focus during a really boring meeting. That's system two working hard.
Okay.
And the real dynamic here is that system one is doing most of the work most of the time. It runs on autopilot, to save energy. It's built for speed, for efficiency, not necessarily for accuracy.
Right. And System 2 is like the overworked supervisor.
Kind of, yeah. It's supposed to check system one's work, but honestly, it's lazy. It often just signs off on whatever quick answer system one spits out.
But, I mean, when System 1 gets it right,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty amazing. We should start there, right? The power of what researchers call thin slicing.
Oh, absolutely. Thin slicing. It's this incredible ability our minds have to find really deep, accurate patterns from just tiny slivers of experience. It's almost spooky sometimes.
And the classic example has to be John Gottman's Love Lab.
Definitely. So Gottman, he's a psychologist. He brought newly married couples into his lab. He'd get them talking about some point of conflict, could be anything, money, chores, even a pet dog.
It's a normal conversation.
Seemingly normal, yeah. But they were wired up. Heart monitors, video cameras capturing micro-expressions, the works.
And the finding was just wild, wasn't it? Analyzing, 15 minutes of this conversation?
Just 15 minutes. And based on that, his team could predict with 90% accuracy whether that couple would still be married 15 years later.
15 years. That's staggering. How?
It wasn't about what they argued about, it was how. They used this incredibly detailed coding system, SPAF it's called, specific effect coding system.
Okay.
It scores all these tiny behaviors, a flicker of an eye roll, a slight change in vocal tone, posture shifts, really subtle stuff.
And that gave them the pattern.
Exactly. It revealed the unique emotional signature, the fist of the marriage, they called it, like how, old-time radio operators could recognize an individual's unique sending style, their fist in Morse code.
So the topic, the dog or whatever, didn't matter. It was all the underlying emotional tone.
Totally irrelevant. It was the texture of the interaction. And they found one emotion was just uniquely toxic.
Contempt.
Contempt. Yeah. It's one of Gottman's 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse, the others being defensiveness, stonewalling, and criticism. But contempt was the killer.
And it's not just emotionally damaging, right? There were physical effects.
Oh, yeah. It's so biologically stressful, the research showed it actually correlated with the partner on the receiving end getting sick more often. More colds, more flu. It literally seemed to weaken their immune system.
Wow. Okay. So that's relationships. But this thin slicing, it pops up elsewhere too.
Everywhere. Take judging personality. There was this other great study, Samuel Gosling's work. Strangers spent just 15 minutes not talking to anyone, just looking around a student's dorm room.
Just looking at their stuff.
Yeah, looking at what they called identity claims, like posters, rewards, behavioral residue, how messy or organized it was, and feelings regulators, maybe photos, specific music choices, things like that.
15 minutes in an empty room.
And those strangers were actually more accurate than the student's own close friends at predicting some key personality traits.
More accurate than their friends. Which traits?
Things like conscientiousness, emotional stability, and openness to new experiences. The strangers, without any personal interaction, picked up on these deep patterns just from the environment. It's immediate, unfiltered pattern recognition.
That's kind of unsettling.
It is. And think about this one surgeon malpractice lawsuits.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that. It's not always about actual mistakes.
Often, no. The research suggests it's heavily driven by patient perception. Did they feel rushed? dismissed, disrespected, that gut feeling the patient gets.
So how did they test that?
Researcher Nalini Ambady did this brilliant study. They took very short audio clips, like 40 seconds, of surgeons talking to patients. But here's the twist. They content filter the audio.
Right.
They basically garbled the words. You couldn't understand what was being said, only the way it was said. The pitch, the rhythm, the tone, the actual verbal content was removed.
Just the music, not the lyrics.
Perfect analogy. And just from those 40 seconds of tone, untrained listeners could predict with significant accuracy which surgeons had previously been sued for malpractice.
Seriously, what was the tell?
A tone that sounded dominant, rushed, or maybe cold and indifferent that correlated strongly with a higher risk of being sued. The critical information wasn't in the words, it was in the emotional delivery.
In high-stress situations, maybe the how matters more than the what.
It really suggests that, yeah. The speed and accuracy are phenomenal. But, and this is the big but.
This is where System 1 starts to get us into trouble. If it's so good at patterns, why do we even need that slow, clunky System 2?
Because System 1 has massive blind spots. It's designed to jump to conclusions, to fill in gaps, often based on superficial cues. And that leads to systematic, predictable errors. Cognitive illusions, essentially.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
The classic political one is the Warren Harding error.
Warren Harding, the president.
Yep. Elected largely because, well, he just looked the part. Tall, handsome, distinguished gray hair, deep voice, he looked presidential.
And that was enough.
For many voters, yes, his appearance triggered this automatic assumption. He must also possess integrity, intelligence, competence. It effectively shut down deeper scrutiny of, his actual qualifications or lack thereof. Appearance trumped substance.
That's confirmation bias, right?
Exactly.
Assuming good looks mean good character.
Exactly. And it's not just historical trivia. Think about corporate leadership today. The sources point out this pretty stark height bias.
Height bias.
Yeah. The average male CEO in America is about 6 feet tall. That's nearly 3 inches taller than the average American man.
3 inches.
Right.
That much.
That much. Being a shorter man is a statistically significant disadvantage in climbing the corporate ladder. We unconsciously associate physical stature with leadership ability, just like voters associated Harding's looks with competence.
Wow. So these visual biases link to deeper, maybe unconscious associations, which brings us to implicit bias.
Precisely. And the implicit association test, the IAT, is designed to measure exactly that.
Right. I've heard of the IAT. What does it generally show?
It shows that most people, something like over 80%, hold automatic associations they might consciously reject. Things like linking male more strongly with career and female with family, or associating white faces with good words and black faces with bad words.
Even if people genuinely believe in equality.
Even then, these associations live deep in System 1, operating below conscious awareness.
And the problem is these unconscious biases leak out.
They absolutely do, in subtle, nonverbal ways, maybe slightly less eye contact, standing just a bit farther away from someone from a certain group, a subtle lack of warmth in the voice.
Things you wouldn't even notice yourself doing.
Probably not. But these micro-behaviors can completely sabotage an interaction, like a job interview. They might make the interviewer unconsciously feel the candidate lacks confidence or isn't a good fit, even if the bias itself remains hidden.
And these beliefs are sticky, aren't they? Because our brains aren't really wired for, what did the sources call it, truth-seeking.
Not naturally, no. Once System 1 forms a belief, System 2 often acts less like a scientist seeking truth and more like a really good lawyer defending a client.
A defense attorney for our existing beliefs.
Exactly. Instead of changing our beliefs to fit new facts, we tend to twist the facts or our interpretation of the facts to fit our existing beliefs. That's motivated reasoning.
There was that football game study, Princeton versus Dartmouth.
Oh, yeah, the classic. They saw a game study from the 50s. Brilliant illustration. Students from both universities watched the exact same film of a famously rough football game between their teams.
Same film footage.
Identical film. But they didn't see the same game. Princeton students overwhelmingly reported seeing Dartmouth commit way more flagrant penalties. Dartmouth students, they tended to see both sides committing roughly equal numbers of fouls.
So their team loyalty literally changed what they perceived as reality on the screen.
It filtered their perception. Their emotional commitment dictated the facts they observed.
Now, here's the really tricky part. You'd think being smarter, more educated, maybe more analytical would help you avoid this, right?
You'd think so. But the research actually points to something called the smart trap.
The smart trap, meaning smart people are worse.
Sometimes, yes, or at least know better. Because if you're more intellectually sophisticated, you're often better at constructing complex arguments, finding clever ways to rationalize your existing viewpoint, even if it's biased.
So you're better at fooling yourself.
Essentially, yes. They did studies giving people data, say, about gun control effectiveness or climate change. Highly numerate people, good with numbers, who had strong prior beliefs, were actually more likely to misinterpret the data to fit their politics than less numerate people who shared their views.
So intelligence can just become a tool for reinforcing bias, not overcoming it.
It can give you sharper tools to dig yourself deeper into your own preferred conclusions.
It is.
Yeah,
Deeply humbling.
yeah.
Makes you rethink times you were sure you were right about something controversial. Okay, so if our gut is flawed and our conscious reasoning can be like a biased defense lawyer,
Yeah.
what hope do we have? Especially for big, important decisions. What are the tools?
Well, the first thing, building on what you said earlier, is understanding where intuition is reliable. You need genuine expertise.
Which requires...
Two key ingredients: a familiar, predictable environment, and crucially, regular, clear feedback. Did your past intuitive judgments turn out right or wrong? If you don't get that feedback loop, like a chess master who sees the results of their moves, your intuition isn't being trained. It's just guessing. It needs deliberate practice.
Okay, so context and feedback. Then what? A mindset shift.
A huge mindset shift. We need to stop thinking in black and white terms of being right or wrong. The sources strongly advocate for thinking in bets.
Thinking in bets. Like literally gambling.
Not necessarily literally, but adopting the mindset.
Right.
When you think about making a bet, you're forced to assess your confidence level. Instead of saying this stock will go up, you say, I'm, say, 60% confident this stock will go up. Expressing belief probabilistically.
Putting a number on your certainty. How does that help?
It makes updating your beliefs massively easier psychologically. If you declare something a 100% fact and then new evidence comes along contradicting it, well, admitting you were wrong feels like a huge personal failure, a total reversal.
Yeah, nobody likes that feeling.
Exactly. But if you start at, I'm 60% sure, and new data suggests maybe it's less likely, shifting your confidence down to, say, 46%, that doesn't feel like a massive defeat. It's just a small, rational adjustment. It makes you way more flexible and open to incorporating new information.
Less ego involved.
Mm-hmm.
More objective updating. Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Harnessing the wisdom of crowds. This is another powerful check on individual bias.
Like on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Ask the audience.
That's a perfect popular example. The core idea is that if you average the independent judgments of a diverse group of people, that collective average is almost always more accurate than even the smartest single person's guess in the group.
Financial markets kind of work on that principle too, right? Aggregating millions of buy-sell decisions.
They try to, yes. The key is diversity and independence of the views. So expressing your own confidence as a probability, I'm 80% sure, actually invites collaboration. It allows someone else to add their perspective without feeling like they're directly attacking your rightness.
Okay, so get feedback, think in probabilities, tap into the crowd. What about for really big one-off decisions? A career change, a major investment, where you can't just rely on past feedback or averaging guesses.
That's when you absolutely need to pull out the heavy artillery. System 2 tools. Structured logical processes, generally called decision analysis.
Decision analysis.
Yes, yeah.
Sounds complicated.
It can be, but the basic structure is pretty straightforward. It starts with framing. Before anything else, you clearly define the problem. What's the actual purpose of this decision? What's our perspective? What's in scope and what's out? Getting that frame right is critical.
Okay, nail down the question first.
Then comes uncertainty quantification. And this is where it really diverges from gut feel. Instead of guessing a single number like, this house will appreciate 5% a year, System 2 demands you think in ranges.
Ranges.
Yeah, like what's a realistic range of appreciation? Maybe you're 80% confident it'll be between, say, 1% and 7% per year. You define that 80% confidence interval, acknowledging the uncertainty up front, the pessimistic 10% chance and the optimistic 10% chance.
Forces you to confront the possibility of being wrong, basically. Avoids false precision.
Exactly. You quantify what you don't know. And then the final piece often is calculating the value of information, or VOI.
Value of information, what's that?
It's a way to figure out if it's actually worth spending time and money to reduce one of your key uncertainties. For instance, in that house example, how much better would your decision be if you knew for sure whether appreciation would be closer to 1% or 7%?
So it tells you if gathering more data is worth the cost.
Precisely. If the VOI for finding out the true appreciation rate is really high, it gives you an objective reason to, say, hire an expert analyst or do more market research instead of just going with your initial biased guess. It forces you to justify not getting more information.
Okay, so this framework, framing uncertainty value of information, it's about imposing structure where system one would just leap.
That's the essence of it. It's intentionally slowing down engaging system two. Because the big takeaway from all this research is you can't just switch off system one. You can't unsee a cognitive illusion, even when you intellectually know it's there.
Right. Trying to be constantly vigilant against bias sounds exhausting and probably impossible.
It is exhausting and impossible. The goal isn't perfection. It's more like cognitive triage. You need to identify the situations where the stakes are high and where your intuition or biases are most likely to trip you up.
And then commit the energy to using these slower, more deliberate System 2 tools.
Exactly. Pick your battles. Don't try to formally analyze whether to have toast or cereal for breakfast, but for a major life decision.
Yeah, engage the structure.
And it all starts with recognizing our own fallibility, our own biases,
Yeah.
which is maybe the hardest step. It really is. And remember, almost everything we think we know as solid fact is potentially subject to revision. Think about science, fundamental physics theories get updated, or even biology species we thought were extinct for millions of years, like the coelacanth fish, suddenly turn up alive and well.
That fish story is incredible. Thought to be gone since the dinosaurs.
And then found swimming off the coast of Africa. It's a great reminder about the limits of our certainty.
Which leads perfectly into the final thought we wanted to leave you with.
Right. Given how easily our minds latch onto certainty, how readily we believe our own narratives. Maybe take a moment today. How should you reassess the level of confidence, that probability score you assign to some of your own most deeply entrenched beliefs?
Approach your own knowledge not as settled fact, but maybe with a bit more humility. With that spirit of calibration, collaboration, and maybe, just maybe, being ready to adjust your odds, that's the real deep dive.